The South African Meat Industry Company, or Samic, was appointed by the Department of Agriculture as the assignee for the application of Section 3(1)(a) and (b) and 8 of the Agricultural Product Standards Acts 119 of 1990, with specific regard to the classification and marking of meat intended for sale in the Republic of South Africa. But for what we understand, their responsibilities are far greater than just that. Tom Westphal, Executive Director of Samic, joins us in studio today. Tom, welcome once again. You've been here before.
Thank you, Lisa. It's really good to be here again.
Who is Samic? How did you come about, and what are your basic responsibilities to the meat industry?
Okay, I'll take you back to the origin of Samic, and we come about. Samic was started in 1997 with the disbandment of the meat board in those days, and all the people that used to work in the meat board have moved over to the Samic, and we're a really diverse group with a really mixture of old and new, experienced and entrepreneurial. And a lot of the meat board guys, original meat board guys, are actually with Samic. So that's really where we started. And as you have quite rightly said, we've been honored by being the assignee for the Agricultural Product Standards Act for classification. But that's not where it ends. And I think that's really what we'd really like to tell the story about. We focus specifically on our mandated function to make sure that the classification of meat is done correctly. And if you think back in the old days, it used to be grading, now it's classification. And it is a quality control system. And that's what we manage, to make sure that it's done correctly, that it's enforced and it's done very transparently. And we are the watchdog of the industry to make sure that happens. Whatever quality control system is in place, we make sure that is managed, and it's our mandate to make sure that it's executed. And that's really focused on making sure that the producer gets the right price for his meat, that the consumer gets the right quality of meat, and that the market is actually communicated to make sure that they get a predictable outcome. And I think that's really what it's all about. Samic does that. We've been going for 27 years, as you probably all know, and it's nice to have that history, but also looking forward, the continuity, and looking at how we can do things better for consumers. And really, that's the history. We also look after the quality indicators. So brands that have made claims, we make sure that those claims are actually correct, and that they're enforced. So free range, for example, those kind of claims are all things that are mandated by Samic to actually make sure that the consumer gets the correct the promises that have been made to them on the packs. Finally, Samic is very proud to be SANAS accredited under ISO 17020, and that makes sure that we are completely independent and impartial. And we get audited every year. In fact, we get audited more than once a year to make sure that we are giving the industry a international standards service, and that it's completely impartial, and we get audited annually to make sure that happens. So in a nutshell, that is what Samic is. There's a lot more. We can't say that Samic is a basic company, but that is our core function. That is our bread and butter. That is our backbone, and that's where we were created by so many years ago.
Now, you've mentioned the official mandate, but what are your broader contributions to the industry?
Okay, so that's really where it becomes interesting, and that is a very it's a very complex business. As simple as it may seem, there's a lot of facets to Samic. We do a lot of levy inspections. We do statistics. We get all the information from all the abattoirs. There are nearly 400 abattoirs in this country. Half of them roughly are classification, do the classification, that do the marking of the carcasses. The others don't. It is a voluntary system. But we continue to work with those, with the classification and non-classification, the smaller abattoirs, to get, first of all, statistics, make sure that they have basic minimum standards. They also get audited by the government for animal health, etc., public health, to make sure that there's certain standards, and we work together with those organizations. We do hides and skins, wool and mohair quality, export, so it's allied industries as well. We check the quality of that. We do the hides and skins, make sure that they are the correct standard for various uses in the industry, so the byproducts. And then, of course, we have a range of other allied functions where we support the rest of the value chain. So we work from farms, where we do a lot of work specifically on quality indicators, but we are present on farms, feedlots, auctions, abattoirs, and we do a lot of work in retail as well, in the butcheries, making sure that the standards are kept. Various aspects of it, but we are we serve the entire value chain, and that makes Samic so diverse, and for me so interesting. And it's really it's important that we continue with that, because we see a full picture. We don't only focus on one area; we do the whole value chain. I think it's really important that we manage that well, and it makes it very interesting, but very diverse. But it makes it a very comprehensive support to the industry.
Won't you elaborate and explain on your levy inspection services?
Okay, so we work very closely with specifically the bigger abattoirs, the classification abattoirs, if you like, and then the other abattoirs as well, the smaller abattoirs, rural abattoirs. And for the specific reason for that is to collect statistics, slaughter statistics, making sure that we as a country, as a government, understand how much gets slaughtered and how much of each species gets slaughtered. And that's what we do. And that's part of our mandate to the red meat industry and the pork industry. So we understand that, and we work with those industries. Those statistics is really important, because the National Marketing Council, the government, research institutes use those statistics to predict forecast, to predict consumption patterns, do forecasts, and make sure that we understand exactly what gets consumed, specifically not only the formal market but also the informal market. And that's why we work through all the abattoirs. And that's really interesting and important for us to create those, to develop those statistics. And through that, we also have a lot of contact with those rural abattoirs. And we are now initiating a project to uplift those, trying to help them to develop their business model. For example, a lot of the rural abattoirs do one slaughter a day. That's not a lot. But for that one slaughter a day, they have to get the most value. They have to make sure that they get the meat. Obviously, that is the reason why they do it. The hides and skins need to be sold, the heads, a lot of the horns. So we are trying to facilitate that they actually get maximum bang for their buck. So we're trying to help them to actually elevate them, make sure that they can sell all the parts of the carcass, so that it's not only the meat. So we in our levy statistics collection, we also have those contacts, and we make sure we are already there, and we try and help them as much as possible. And that is an initiative that we are working together with the Red Meat Industry Services and SAPO to make sure that while we are there, try and facilitate that trade as well. And that's our cooperation, our collaboration with our stakeholders. And that's really all, in a nutshell, what we do while we are doing those levy statistics at the various abattoirs.
What about Samic's founding charter? What is your mandate there?
That makes it even more interesting. So outside of our mandated functions, we do a lot of other work, which is written in our charter, which allows us to do anything related to the services that we offer. So we have various other aspects, and I'll mention a couple of them. As I mentioned previously, the hide, skins, wool and mohair, we have a lot of work with the wool industry to make sure that the export wool is of a specific standard, that it is done transparently and correct, that those standards are kept. So we are involved in that. We're involved in the same with hides and skins. A lot of our hides and skins get used locally, but a lot of them also get exported. And the export hides and skins needs to have, one, a certain quality standard, and two, have to have traceability. So we're going to make sure that they come from reputable suppliers. So we do a lot of that work through our department in Port Elizabeth, or Tebega as it's known today, to make sure that those standards are kept. We have a company called Class Equip, which stands for Classification Equipment. We supply all the classification equipment to make sure that there's a standardization of the equipment that gets served to the industry or gets supplied to the industry. Make sure that standards of marking is always legible, that there's a minimum standard for the equipment, the ink that gets used that is food grade. So that is also supplied by Samic. Those are the other parts of Samic which we are serving the industry with. We are also very involved in training. We are now getting more and more involved in training. That was once previously a mandate of Samic. So from a classification point of view, we try and help other organizations to at least form a certain knowledge of the meat quality. And that doesn't stop at the South African border. So we have an Africa expansion project, which we are starting to now use. We are now engaged with other neighboring countries, for example, Namibia, Botswana, Eswatini, and there's a couple others in the pipeline for next year, where we like to standardize on a classification or a quality control system, which also helps to facilitate trade. So we know exactly what standards are. We have comparable standards between the countries. So those are the other aspects of Samic, which is not mandated, but is certainly written into our charter. And we make sure that we do all of those to the best of our ability.
In closing, let's talk about your inner workings. What does your group consist of in the office, your relationship, your stakeholders, in other industry partners?
Okay. So we're a very small team. I think it's a very dynamic team, as I said at the beginning. We have a range of employees that are in their 20s, 30s, and even that are hitting 80. So we've trying to keep the continuity, and we have a big push on succession planning. But it's a dynamic team. We'll start with our board. We have 4 non-executive members, executive directors, who I report to, and I'm part of the executive team. I'm the executive director. I then have a management team and an admin team, which consists of 7 people in the office, and we manage the functions within Samic. Then there are inspectors in the field that focus on the abattoirs and broader allied meat functions. There are 13 of those, and 19 wool, mohair, hides and skins inspectors that also work across the country to make sure that those standards are kept. We have a small team that looks after the ink and the classification equipment that gets supplied to make sure that that's a specific standard. So there's a lot happening at the moment. It's an exciting office. It's an exciting company. There's a lot more than meets the eye. Our stakeholders, as you mentioned, we work very closely with most of the big industries bodies that we specifically serve. First of all, the primary cluster, the Red Meat Primary Cluster, that's the Red Meat Producers Organization, the Red Meat Abattoir Association, the Feedlot Association, which is managed and working together with RMIS, the Red Meat Industry Services. SAPO is the other industry body from a pork perspective. And of course, the most important is our government partners. We work together with them to make sure that the law is upheld. So we have various stakeholders. They're all very, very supportive. We work extremely well with them. It's a dynamic team. We try not to duplicate functions. There's a lot happening at the moment, but we have a nice dynamic relationship, and we are all very much focused on the future. I think we have a huge opportunity in this country. We have many challenges, as any country does have, but I think we the nice thing about the team and our stakeholders, and specifically the Samic team and of course the greater team, is that we're looking for the future. We're looking for how do we serve the customer better? How do we serve our customers and of course the consumers of meat? We are all focusing on digitalization. It's the way to go. We're moving away from analog into digital. That makes our information a lot more available. And of course, all of us have an innovative mindset. We're thinking about new things all the time, and that's really challenging, and we challenge each other all the time. So it's really a nice dynamic within Samic and within our stakeholders. And yeah, we disagree many times, as any family does, but yeah, we have fun. And I think that's the main thing. We spoke about it earlier. It is fun. amidst our challenges. I think we achieve a lot, and I'm really happy to be part of this team. I've been around in the meat industry for now 17 months. It's been the most busy 17 months of my life, and it's a really fantastic group of people. I don't know what took me so long, but here I am. It's really fun.
Tom, thank you. I have been witness to the innovation. You've grown a lot as a company. And I mean, since the last time I attended the Samic Awards function and compared to this time, huge difference. Well done. And thank you for sharing all the ideas with us today.
Thank you so much for the work that you guys do, and it's my honor to be here.
Well, if you've wondered what Samic does, or the South African Meat Industry Company, I'm sure Tom has explained it well.